Howdy everyone, Michelle here from Love to Loom. And today I'm going to show you guys this very simple headband, or some might call it ear warmer. Okay, this is done in the round. It is not flat panel. It is not twisted. It's super simple. And the reason why I'm making the video, even though I explain everything in the written pattern, is I think some people are getting confused because although I've not really done a lot of headbands out there, I'm finding out that a lot of them are done flat panel, and people are getting confused by this because they're assuming that it's flat panel. So no, it is done in the round. It is not twisted. I get this little bunch here during the bind off, which I'm going to show you here. Now for this particular one, I used my KB 48 peg 5/8 gauge chunky loom with a different color. This color here is called Sable, but I did use the same yarn, which is Lion brand Color Made Easy in Sable. This one here that I just got started so I can show you guys is called Avocado. And as you can see, it is a bulky number 5. I love, love, love this yarn. I got so many of them last year during a clear out at Michael's. They were like less than $3 a skein. And there's quite a bit. There's almost 250 yards in one of these. So I can get a couple of beanies and some of these ear warmers. So this actually ended up being a little bit of an accident because I started doing just a regular cloche beanie because I thought I had enough, but I was short. So what I did is I frogged it and I thought maybe I have enough for a headband. And sure enough, I did. So if you haven't already, go ahead and grab the written instructions that I have on my Raverly. And you'll see I break this down super easy. It says it's done in the round, not flat panel. And this is broken up into 3 sections. So the first section, which is this one here at the top, is just garter. Now for this one, you can do either true knit or E-wrap, whatever is easier for you. For this particular one, I wanted to get through it pretty quick, so I just did an E-wrap. Now, if you do a true knit, it will make it just a little bit tighter, not a whole lot. So keep that in mind depending on what loom you use. So your first and your last section is going to be the same, which is the garter. So it's either E-wrap or a knit and a purl. And then this middle section here is just twisted stockinette, where you're going to E-wrap back and forth. And I'm going to show you the technique to do that in the round. And then this here, you're going to do this during the bind off. So keep that in mind. Now, because this is done in the round, you can do it in any number of looms. If you're going to make one for a small child, you might want to do, if this is like a 31 peg, 3/4, 9/16, I think it is. No, 11/16. It's kind of worn away. But this is just a regular 31 peg. If you are someone that has a smaller head, and a 41 peg in the standard ones is maybe too big for you, just go up a little bit more and you can use the 36. You can use the 48. For the one that I'm doing right now, I'm going to move this out of the way also. I am using my Sinwood loom, which is a 60 peg, 1/2 inch loom. And this is perfect for the person that I'm making this particular one for, because like me, she has a lot of hair. So you don't want anything too tight. And then again, you don't want anything too loose. So the 60 peg that I'm working on is very similar in size. If you see, I'm putting the 48 on there. So just depending on what loom you're using, make sure you're correlating that with the correct yarn. So if you're using something with a bigger gauge, like this one, you're going to want a thicker yarn. So a very bulky number 5, or even maybe a 6. But just keep in mind that even though some say 5, this is a bulky. If you are familiar with using Charisma or Soft Essentials, those are a 5 also, but they're a little bit thicker. So again, just keep in mind, use the correct yarn for the correct gauge. You can use any loom for this depending on the size of the person's head that you're making it for. All right, so this one here, I've already got started and I did my first section. So your cast on is just basically a simple E-wrap And then you're going to just wrap it all the way around, but you're not going to knit it off. You're just going to wrap it. And then you're going to get started right on your first round, which is purl. And then if you notice right here for the garter section, I'm sure many of you are already familiar with garter. Rounds 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and 11 are going to be purl. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12 are going to be either knit, which is a true knit or a U-knit, or E-wrap. It's totally up to you. Keep in mind, if you want something that's a little bit tighter based on the loom that you're using, I would go with knit. For this particular one, I want it a little more loose, so I'm going with the E-wrap, which is like what I did with this one. And this one fits me perfectly. Now, we're going to get started on this middle section here. We're going to do 10 rounds of the twisted stockinette, which is basically E-wrapping in one direction and then going back and doing it that way. Okay, you'll have 2 strands at your starting pegs, which I'm going to show you here. And this section here is going to be approximately, this middle section is going to be approximately 2 to 3 inches wide for this right here. All right, so let's get into it. I'm going to show you guys how easy it is to do this twisted stockinette, because a lot of people are already familiar with doing it, but they're doing it flat panel. So I'm going to show you how to do it. And as you can see, there's nothing here that shows your starting peg because it's here and it's bunched up. So it looks like a nice, clean, all the way around. You know, you don't have that split where you start, because we're going to camouflage it right here in this cute little bunched area. Okay, so for your twisted stockinette, my black peg is my starter peg. You're just going to E-wrap, but in this case I ended on a knit in my garter, so I'm going to come around and I work counterclockwise. So I know that I ended my last one right here. You're going to wrap your starting peg, come around the back and E-wrap the last peg you just knitted off. Okay, now you'll notice on my starting peg here, I have 2 strands. We want to keep it that way. And now we're just going to E-wrap going in this direction. So another thing that I recommend is, if you are going to do E-wrap like I'm doing, don't do more than 3 wraps, 3 pegs at a time. And the reason why is you will most likely end up get a laddering effect where it splits. You definitely don't want to do that. And it helps just to take a little time. And especially if this is a gift, you want it to look nice. So you definitely don't want any, you know, open seams or stitches or anything like that. So just do 3 at a time. And take your time. It looks a lot nicer when you do that. So you're just simply going to E-wrap all the way around. And then I will meet you at the starting peg. So go ahead and pause your video now, and I'll meet you when I come up to my starting peg. All right, so I'm coming up. Here's my starting peg here. And I have to knit this one and that one. So I'm going to knit this, or E-wrap. And then I have both strands on my starting peg here. So I'm going to grab both of those, E-wrap, knit both strands off. And now we're going to turn and go the other direction. This was our last peg, which was our starting peg on this side. But now we're going to go clockwise. I'm going to do the same thing, bring the working yarn behind, wrap it around. E-wrap my starting peg, knit that off, and now I have 2 strands right here on that one. And you're going to E-wrap, so this is round 2, just E-wrap in this direction. Okay, and you're just going to repeat that for the 10 rows or the 10 rounds in this middle section. All right, so just keep going. I'm going to pause the video here. Go ahead and continue what you're working on, and then meet me back here when I get to the starting peg. All right, so I am coming up on my last. As you can see, my peg here has 2 strands on it. So I'm going to E-wrap this one and then grab both strands, E-wrap that, knit it off. Now we're going to go back in this direction. So I'm going to bring my working yarn behind my starting peg, wrap this last peg I came at, knit it off. There you go. And you see I have 2 strands on my starting peg, which is my black peg. And I'm going to just E-wrap my way all the way around. So you're going to continue that approximately 10 rounds, or until you have at least 2.5 to 3 inches in this section. Because even though I'm saying 10 rounds, depending on what yarn you're using, you know, you're going to want to take that judgment. So go between 2.5 to 3 inches. So this is going to be 2 on the top and bottom, and then this section here is 2.5 to 3 inches total. All right, so continue working your twisted stockinette, which is the middle section. Pause the video, and then I'll meet you back here so we can do the last of the garter, and I'll show you the bind off that we're going to do to get this here. Okay. All right, so now my middle section, which was the twisted stockinette section here, is complete. And you can see it kind of indents a little bit when you change the stitch. So this down here, it's bubbled up on this side. This is my garter, and you can see there's the twisted. So once you actually cast off and everything, it'll smooth out and lay flat and just look like that. So now we're going to go on to a repeat of the first section, but we're going to do the last section here, which is the bottom section of garter. You're just going to do the same exact thing that you did for the first section, rounds 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and 11. You're going to purl, and rounds 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, you're going to either do the knit or E-wrap, whatever you did in the beginning. For me, I did E-wrap because, again, the person that I'm making this particular one for has a lot of hair like me, so I want it to fit comfortably, not too tight. If you want it a little tighter, you could do just a regular knit or U-knit or true knit. But if you want it a little looser, depending on what loom you're using, totally up to you. All right, so let's go in and get started on this bottom section. Now, as you can see here, I make sure to end mine to go in the direction that I normally work, which is clockwise. So this is going to be my last peg. This is my starter. So I have 2 strands on this one from when I turned into my last round of stockinette. So I'm going to grab both of those, knit those off, and then just go into purl. And then just purl all the way around, and then continue doing your garter. So go ahead, I'm going to continue working over here, you continue working there. Pause the video, and then I will meet you back here when I come up to my starting peg. All right, and I'm coming up on this last couple of pegs of purl for round 1 of the bottom section. And here's the last one here. Perfect. Now round 2 and all even rounds, we're just going to either knit or E-wrap, whatever one you did. For me, for this particular one, as I mentioned, I did an E-wrap. So if you're going to E-wrap, just make sure you do 3 pegs, no more at a time. If you're going to do 1 at a time, that's fine, but try not to do more than 3, because you will run the risk of running into laddering or some being really loose or some being really tight. This, I find, it stays pretty consistent. So go ahead and continue this round, and then go and finish the rest in this garter section. 12 rounds total. So we're right now on round 2. There's 12 rounds total. And then come meet me back here when you are done the 12th round, which is a E-wrap, and I will do the super stretchy bind off and then show you how to bind off completely to get this nice little bunch right here in the front. Okay, pause your video. All right, welcome back everybody. So now I am completely finished with my first section of garter, my middle section of stockinette, twisted stockinette, and then my last section of garter. So as you can see, it's kind of rolling. So don't think that you're going to have to block this or anything. You're not going to have to. Okay. So here is my cast on tail, which is going to come into play shortly. And as you can see right now on the outside, where we did the crossovers for the stockinette and then we switched from knit to purl, it looks like this on the outside and it looks like this on the inside. So you can kind of see that dual crossover here, but that is going to disappear when we do the bind off and you come to this, because it's all going to be hidden in how I do that, which is super simple. Okay, so now what you're going to do is we're going to start our super stretchy bind off. So make yourself a long tail. We're going to do 3 wraps around. So that's 1, 2, and 3. And don't pull it really tight, just kind of keep it relaxed and loose. And the reason why we're going to do 3 is because if you've ever done the super stretchy bind off before, which I'm sure many of you have, you're going to essentially touch each peg twice to go back and forth with that. All right. So I'm going to grab my threaded needle. Here we go. There. And maybe I'll get lucky and be able to do this on the first shot. Drum roll needs to be going on right here. Yeah. Oh, I was all excited for a second there. It's difficult when it's a little bit of a thicker yarn to get all those pieces through. Do we have success? We have success. Yay. All right. So with the super stretchy bind off, I'm sure many of you know how to do this, but I'm just going to show you just for the sake of showing you. So here's my starting peg, and I left off on this last peg here. So we're going to skip this first one, we're going to go to the second one, and then we're going to come back to this. Okay, so with your working yarn in front, your needle, you're going to come from the bottom, pull all this through, and that working yarn is going to lay in front of this peg here, your starting peg. Now you're going to take your needle and come from the top and go down to the bottom and pull it through, going through both strands. Okay, let's do that again. So we're going to skip this one, which is the one that we initially went to. Go to this one, go from the bottom, and then come back and go down. And you're just going to repeat that all the way around, which is why I said you're essentially going to touch each peg twice. So this is 1. And then we're going to come down through these 2. Oops. Go to the next one. And this is where we touch it the second time, which was the first one on the last one. So you're just going to repeat this all the way around. Go ahead and pause your video, finish your super stretchy bind off, but do not take it off. When you get back to this last peg, before you do your starter peg, meet me back here. So go ahead and pause your video, and I will see you in a few moments. All right, so I am done with my bind off all the way around. I'm at my last peg right now. So I'm going to come up through my starting peg, which already has 2 strands on it, down through the one next to it. And Then I'm going to come up again through my starting peg and tie it off. Once, and then one more time. And just shore it up. So you can take this off the loom now, but leave this attached to your needle and I will show you why. So use your hook and just gently pop them up over the top and go all the way around, taking them all off your loom. And again, remember, I mentioned this in the beginning, you can do this on any loom. It just depends on what size person you're doing it for, what size their head is. You can do the garter either in the true or the U-knit or the E-wrap like I did on this, because it's sometimes a little bit faster. Keep in mind, if you do the U-knit or the true knit, it's going to be just a tad tighter, but that's okay. If you are using a little bit of a bigger loom, then I would definitely recommend going with the U-knit on that. If you're doing it for a child's head, I know sometimes they have really fine hair, and that way if it's a little tighter for them, it'll wear better for them. But in this case, I did this based on my hair because the person that's getting this as a gift has a lot of hair. So if you're making something for somebody that has a lot of hair, has really thick hair, anything like that, I would recommend going with the E-wrap with the garter, so that way it has a little bit more give. It's a little looser, so that way it's not super tight on their head. And to me personally, this makes it a whole lot easier being in the round. So I'm coming up on the last couple of ones here, and that's my last one. So I'm going to take this out of here. I'm going to move my loom aside, and now I'm going to show you guys how to get this bunch here in the middle. So what you're going to do is, obviously you could tell what's the inside and what's the outside. So this is the outside right here. I'm just making sure it's all the way out. And this is our cast on tail right here. Okay, so the other end, obviously, here, I'm going to flip this inside out real quick. This is the inside. All right, and you could see the seam along here. You could see the double edges and then the cast on. So normally you would just like weave in your ends or anything like that, but this is where this allows you to create that bunch instead of doing a twist. So you're going to take your needle and you're just going to work it right down that seam all the way through, and you won't even really see this on the other side. So I'm through and I'm starting in on the garter section. So just keep weaving it through. I'm going to pull my yarn through right now because it's getting a little bunched up. There we go. And go back to that same point and just continue running it through just like I'm doing here. And the great thing about this is it doesn't, now I'm through the stockinette section, I'm going into this. It doesn't have to be perfect because it's all going to get hidden. That's the great thing about this. Do one more and then I'm going to pull it through before I finish the last couple of. Pull it through. Oop, get back here. So here's my cast on. So I'm going to go through this one right here. Then what I'm going to do, I'm going to flip this to the right side. So my working yarn is down here. Oh, let me grab that. and you just pull it just like that, and it'll shape up as you pull it through. Oops, just grabbing that one. Okay. And you pull it like that, and then while it's still on the needle, flip it around, and you have your cast on tail, and tie that, and make sure you have a nice tight knot. Don't cut the cast on tail yet, because you're going to weave that in. All right, and as you can see, it gives you that nice clean bunch right there. Okay, now what you're going to do is you'll have a really long tail on this side. You're going to short it down a little bit. So I'm going to take my scissors, I'm going to cut it right about there. Get rid of that other part. And then we're going to flip this inside out, and we're just simply going to weave in this tail right over through here. I'm going to bring that through. And then I'm going to take that one off, and then I have a little protector on my thumb because it's getting super sensitive. All right, so I'm going to thread. This was the cast on tail. Work with me. Is it gonna let me? No. All right, hang on. Here we go. Do I have it? Please? Yay! Okay. So if you want to leave yourself a longer cast on tail, you are more than welcome to do that. So what you want to do with this one is, you see the loops that you went through with the other, go through opposite loops on this side. Grab one from down here. Come on. There we go. And then kind of meet it in the middle here. And then you can take that off, tie these two in a nice tight knot. 1, 2. Then take your scissors and go pretty close. And there you have it. Easy peasy. So the top is, for me, I did a U-wrap and pearl garter. Middle is the twisted stockinette, and the bottom is a duplicate of the top, which is the E-wrap. And there's the back. So there you go. Hopefully this was helpful enough for everybody. And just so you can see size on this, to give you an idea on measurement, this is about 9.5 inches across, and height, we're looking at about 4.5 inches wide. So that's going to be really nice and big enough to protect the ears from the cold and everything else. So there you go. And of course, as always, here's the gray one. Here's the avocado one I just did. If you have any questions, you are more than welcome. If you're not already a member of our looming group, you're welcome to join us at Love to Loom. You'll find the information in the description below. And if you have any questions, feel free to message me on Facebook or drop me an email at ilovetoloomknit@gmail.com. Happy looming, everybody. Bye.